in terms of like the cultural impact, Kev, for both of these two albums, like I said, they both came out a year apart from one another. Both of them were ironically, was executive produced by Jermaine Dupri, who was on fire at that point. Looking ahead years later, obviously it's been over 15 years since both of these two albums came out. Looking forward years later, what album do you feel like had the bigger cultural impact?
I think Confessions again, I have to say. I think I have to pick with Confessions again. I think Confessions defined a decade. It defined the 2000s, or it was part of the albums that defined the 2000s. Certainly some of the records on the album defined the 2000s as well. And I think there were loads of artists. I'm just literally reading here, you know, Ariana Grande sort of utilized the whole sort of relationship breakup rumor with her album Thank You Next, you get me? So she used like the same sort of tactics and marketing as well.
Good point.
Also Beyonce's Lemonade apparently as well.
Yeah, good point.
Which is interesting. I think I haven't heard the album. But either way, I definitely would pick Usher's Confessions. I think I'm trying to think about it in terms of this sort of sound. I feel like Usher's Confession probably was at the high point of like R&B and also other sounds that sort of come to it, because by the 2010s it was all done for R&B and some of the sounds, you get me, like in terms of like you know, like from 2000 to 2010, maybe like 2013, maybe like you have Harry Hilson's after that was just like
just in terms of peak R&B, like when we're talking about commercial, innit, like the commercial success of R&B records, that was the last peak. That was the last peak. Do you know what I mean? You said, you know, that album, I think it sold 1 million in a week or something. 1.1 million a week. It's gone diamond. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, what other R&B album has done that since?
Yeah, bro, 1.1, that's absolutely ridiculous, bro.
That's actually ridiculous. So I feel like that was the last for R&B music in the commercial sense. But yeah, with this question, Kay, I definitely have to agree with you, man. I have to go with Usher Confessions again, because looking back at it years later, yeah, like a lot of albums have sort of dipped into that formula. You know, you mentioned a couple of them. And I know that a lot of new age R&B artists that have come out within the last 10 years. You know, the Young Blues, the Brent Fias's, you know,
loads of people,
the Bryson Tillers, you know, bro.
Even Frank to an extent as well. I'm certainly sure that he's definitely
influenced.
took loads of stuff from this album as well.
Yeah. You can even put Miguel in there.
Miguel 100%. Miguel 100%.
Miguel and that. Like a lot of them were influenced by that album and just Usher in general. So, and bruv, even to this day, bro, people still reference Confessions. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, bruv, it's the other day, bro, I saw some blasphemy on Twitter. You know, people just saying, people trying to compare Confessions to like some of Trey Songz' albums, and I'm just thinking, bruv, are you lot actually tapped? Do you get what I mean? But every single day you go on Twitter, there's always somebody trying to compare Confessions with another R&B artist or album. But that just goes to show you how much of a cultural impact Confessions had. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Years later, people are still talking about it. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think also one of the sort of impact is also had is the whole sort of crunk music as well. I think Sierra kind of copied it with Goodies, isn't it? Like the Atlanta crunk sound. Do you get me? That was on that Do you get me? I think Sierra Goodies kind of borrowed that sound as well on her single Goodies. I think that came out 2006, isn't it?
No, it came out 2004-5. So
okay,
just after,
cool.
just slightly after Usher came out. Yeah. For the cultural impact, I will say that Usher definitely takes this. But then again, years later, I realized that, you know, the Mimi era, that was around that time when Mariah came out with the Emancipation of Mimi. That era was that we slept on that era, especially obviously.
So
me and
50
you,
Cent with the massacre, innit? From the G Unit, fam.
yeah,
That's what.
yeah,
That's what.
yeah,
Bro,
yeah.
that's the thing.
But,
That's what I remember. That I remember 50
yeah,
Cent. That's what I remember. That's why.
yeah. Yeah. Because obviously the likes of 50, the likes of Usher, kind of brushed Mariah to the side a bit. But that era, Kevin, I can't lie. Yeah, that around that time, yeah, when Mimi came out, with that album. I feel like it was a moment, do you know what I'm saying? But we didn't fully appreciate that moment because we had the likes of, like I said, 50 and obviously Chris Brown as well came out during that period.
Oh, yes, of course. Chris Brown as well. And 100% Chris Brown is a massive influence. He's so influenced by Usher, bro.
Yeah. But I feel like Mariah owned that sort of after Usher came out with Confessions, she kind of took the baton from Usher and she sort of ran with it because
Usher had some time off, innit?
Yeah, he has some time off. Like Usher took a good 4 years before.
4 years out, yeah. That's a long time for an artist.
Yeah. So literally, as soon as Usher was done with the album and Mariah Carey released Mimi a year later, she kind of took the
where do we put Beyonce in that though? Beyonce still did very well during that period of time.
Beyonce during that period again, like Beyonce, because she'd come out with Dangerously in Love in 2003, and then she didn't release her second album.
It was 06, isn't it?
2006, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So during that period, I feel like Mariah had like a clear space in it where she kind of, it was her time now, innit? It was the emancipation of Mimi, like she said in the song time, in the album title. Like it was her time to sort of shine in it. And that was like her second, sort of like her reign, innit? Do you know what I'm saying? Obviously her first reign was in the 90s. This was like her second reign, do you know what I mean? During that period. And she took it and she ran with it, man. Like Mariah Carey, she was massive. Like she literally, people always say, yeah, that when you go online and when you watch, YouTube videos around that time, people say that Mariah Carey had the biggest comeback or one of the biggest comebacks in music history. Because literally, Kevin, yeah, and again, I've done my research, people were saying Mariah was done. Literally, her career was on life support. It was on life support. And the 360 that she did, Kevin, bro, not only did she had the biggest selling album of that year, of 2000. And this was a time when 50 came out with The Massacre. She even sold more than him. And we both know how big 50 was at that time. She sold more than him, yeah, for that year. For 2005, The Emancipation of Mimi was the biggest selling album, period. And I think she won 3 Grammys on top of that as well for the album. Do you know what I'm saying? And obviously that album's been certified multi-platinum. Do you get what I mean? She won a bunch of awards. Like she got 1 or 2 number ones off of that album. Like Kevin, it's not a stretch when people say that it was the biggest comeback in music.
Yeah, in comparison to the 2 other albums, 100%. And for sure.
Yeah. She was able to have like a second wind or a second chance of a career. And bear in mind, Mariah Carey, even though she's kind of done now, she's been in the music industry for what, 3 decades. And for her to be
long time, but I can't like. Even I would be tired. I'd be like, you are.
And think about it this way, Kevin. Like again, it even to this day, bro. Like what? All I want for Christmas, yeah, bro. Anytime Christmas comes around, bro, that song is number 1, or it's high in the charts. You know what I'm saying? Sure. She's been in the game for 3 decades, and that album allowed her. It gave her a resurgence. It resurrected her career. Because Kevin, I argue, if that album doesn't come out, Mariah Carey would have been done. She would have been done.
Yeah, I do agree with you. But I feel like, 100%. I feel like that's she wanted this. You get me? She wanted this, and clearly there was a sort of even a change in the music and the way because she even talks sort of clearly. I think I'm gonna get into it in one of the segments where we're talking about the sonic influences and the music on the album. She talks about just making a sort of change. Being less constricted in her music choices, less polished, and less balladry. Less looking for that ballad as one of the big singles.
And I feel like she was more collaborative on this album
That's
as well.
True.
Like compared to her previous albums. You know what I'm saying? Like she worked with a lot more songwriters and producers. You understand? Like she was a lot more collaborative, and obviously that allowed the album to be a lot more experimental. I mean, she worked with Kanye
Yeah,
one
yeah.
of
Kanye's one of the records. Yeah, for sure, for
one
sure,
of the
for
records.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
Stay
she
the
worked
Night.
with,
Stay the Night. Stay the Night is a very good song. I did like Stay the Night.
it's a
Stay the
very
Night.
good song, yeah. And obviously she worked with a number of songwriters. I mean, Austin,
Jonathan
who's a great.
Austin as well. Yeah, he's got some. I like Jonathan.
Yeah. He was a great songwriter. She worked with Brian McKnight as
Brian
well
McKnight. Yeah.
on a couple of the records. Yeah. So she was a lot more collaborative on this. I think she even worked with Missy Elliott on one of
Possibly.
the
I think on one of the records, possibly as well.
Yeah.
I didn't see it on the track list, but I think there might be some stuff there as well.